Hey, it's Daryl. I'm going to try and look at the camera. Or not look at the camera, I don't know. I'm going to talk about RUC and why you are being ripped off. Everybody's about to be ripped off, okay? So, everybody in New Zealand who drives a car, you're going to get ripped off. Everybody who drives a lightweight diesel car, you've already been getting ripped off. And now, everybody who drives electric or plug in hybrid, you're going to get ripped off too. And not everybody, maybe some people have a heavy car and the heavy car does a lot of damage to the road, and yeah, you should pay RUC. You should pay a lot of RUC. I don't know. Road user charges. Road user charges. I'm in New Zealand. In New Zealand, when you drive your car, if it's a diesel car, and soon to be on the 1st of April, an electric car, you have to pay per kilometre you drive on public roads. And the price is $7.60 per 100 kilometres. What's that? That's $5 American for 60 miles. Something like that. What is that in pounds? I don't know. £4 per 60 miles. Something like that. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Gives you a rough idea. What happened in New Zealand? Why did we get into this weird situation that people who drive diesel vehicles and electric vehicles have to pay per kilometre? We don't have the tax in the fuel that's used to pay for the upkeep of the road. That's because people who drive diesel things also have tractors and stuff, or generators or whatever. You don't drive a generator, it's just parked outside your house. You don't drive a tractor on the public road, you just drive it on your farm. You might have some big industrial thing that uses diesel as a fuel, and that's not being driven on the road. It's not damaging the road. You're not damaging the road. You don't have to pay for the road. That's the point of RUC, road user charges. So how do you pay it? You go to the post office or something and you buy a little card and you put that little card in the front window of your car. If you get pulled over by the police, they check the odometer of your vehicle and you haven't got kilometres purchased for the kilometres that you're driving currently, they give you a big fine. You can get a special little machine, a little computer. It's got a GPS in it. You put it on the dash of your car and it knows if you're on the road or on your farm or on your construction site, not on the road. And it will charge you RUC when you're on the road and not charge you RUC when you're not on the road. But you have to buy the machine and then you have to pay for a subscription for that. So it's not worthwhile doing. I'm talking about people who drive normal cars on highways. Okay, so I have I've got 3 cars. I've got a work vehicle. My work vehicle's a diesel van. I pay road user charges. I don't pay it. My company does. They pay $7.60 every time I drive 100 kilometres. What does that mean? Every time 1,000 kilometres, it's $76. Every time I drive the average distance, the average New Zealander drives 14,000 kilometres a year, it's $76 times 14. That's a really big number. How much is that? What is 76 times 14? I don't know, that's hard maths. If it was 10,000, it would be $760. It's something like $1,200. $1,200 to drive the average amount of kilometres. I drive my work van a lot because I drive around fixing stuff. I drive lots of Ks. That doesn't matter. I'm not talking about that. But you could be a business owner. Maybe you're a business owner. You're a builder or a plumber or an electrician. I go out and fix stuff. That's what I do for my job. I fix electrical stuff and other stuff. I kind of do electrical stuff. Yeah. I drive around a lot. If you're a small business owner, you probably do the same thing. You drive around in your ute. If you've got a small ute or a small van, you've been getting ripped off for RUC the whole time. Okay? Because RUC is calculated as if your vehicle is 3.5 tonnes. There's not that many 3.5 tonne vehicles. If you've got a vehicle that weighs more than 3.5 tonnes, you pay way more for RUC. A lot more. I don't know why my lighting changed just then. Something changed on my screensaver. I don't know what that is. Okay, let's continuing on. So, RUC is calculated as if everybody's driving a 3.5 tonne vehicle. Guess what? Most vehicles aren't. Toyota Corollas weigh something like 1,200 kgs, or maybe 1,000 or 1,600. I don't know. My mum just got a new hybrid car. I think it weighs 1,200. It's a Toyota. It's not a Prius. It's a small one. There's a small Prius and a big Prius. Okay, other cars. Honda. I've got a Honda Insight. My Honda Insight's made out of aluminium. It's got a 1 litre engine. It's got a hybrid battery pack. Uses 4 litres per 100 k's if you drive it efficiently, which if you're stuck in traffic on a commute, that would be the kind of driving you'd be doing. How much does it cost to drive 100 kilometers? It's about $3 per litre for petrol, something like that. It's $2.80. I don't know. It changes. The RUC in petrol. How do you pay for RUC on petrol cars versus diesel cars? The RUC's built into the petrol price. It's 70 cents. Petrol costs $2.80 per litre. You pay $2.10 for the petrol and you pay 70 cents for RUC. What does that mean if you drive a normal efficient vehicle that uses Prius or just a normal small petrol car, a city commuter car, a Mazda Demio, the most popular car in New Zealand, a Toyota Prius, one of the most popular cars in New Zealand, what's some other ones, small Mitsubishi something, small Honda this or that, a little European 1 Series car of some sort, you know, those efficient little cars. You use 4 litres per 100 Ks or 3.5 litres per 100 Ks. You're paying $11, $10, $11, $12 per 100 Ks. How much of that's tax? About $3. $3 per 100 Ks. 70 cents per litre out of $2.80 per litre, whatever. You pay about $3. It's about $3. It's $2.80 or something. You pay $2.80 for your tax. It's not $7.60 like RUC is. That is my point of contention. RUC is set too high. It's set for the 3.5 tonne vehicles, not for the 1 or 1.5 tonne vehicles. Lots of electric cars weigh 1 to 1.5, almost 2 tonnes. Not many of them. There are some that weigh more than 2 tonnes. The idea of RUC is to pay for the damage of the road and building of new roads. If you've been driving a lightweight you've got an old Hilux. It's like the old, I can't remember, I had one when I was a kid, or my dad had one when I was a kid. I think it's a 2-litre engine, 2.4, but it's a cab and chassis ute. It doesn't weigh much. It doesn't have all of the canopy and stuff on the back. It only has seats for 2 or 3 people across the front. It's a lightweight vehicle. It probably only weighed 1.3 tonnes. It's a third of the weight of what RUC's designed for. Every time my parents paid for RUC, they were probably being ripped off. Maybe the price was different. It was a long time ago. What else? I currently have... talking too much, okay. Currently have a Nissan Leaf. Nissan Leaf weighs 1.3 tonnes. That's about half of 3.5 tonnes. It's less than half. The RUC I would have to pay if I was paying the new RUC would be $7.60 per 100 Ks. I currently pay $3.50 or something per 100 Ks if I charge my car at home. I pay about $9 or $10 per 100 Ks if I use a fast charger. Okay, what does this mean? RUC's just going to be charged, not for the amount of power you use, but what I'm saying is that if I was just strictly doing my ordinary old commute where I drive down to the city and back, it's about 80 or 100 K round trip, be like $3 a day on petrol. But then if I go to change that to paying RUC, I'll be paying like $10 a day. It's a big difference. I bought the electric car because it's efficient and all of that, and I knew that the RUC would eventually end one day, but I hoped that they would rationalise the RUC system before they started charging me RUC. They haven't rationalised the RUC system, and that's what I want to talk to you about now. We need to rationalise the RUC system, because if everybody's paying RUC, maybe even they want motorcyclists to pay RUC. Your motorbike might weigh 100 kilograms or a couple of 100 kilograms if you've got a big motorcycle. Do you want to pay $7.60 when your current motorcycle probably uses like 2 litres per 100 K or something? One of my friends has a motorbike. He was telling me how the petrol tank is so tiny, but it goes quite far. It's what he can afford. Lots of people drive their cars to go to work in New Zealand. Almost everybody does. Most people don't live in the middles of big cities where there's good public transport. Yeah, 1 million people probably have access to good public transport. The other 4 million people don't have access to good public transport. Most people drive themselves to work. Everybody in New Zealand pretty much has a car. Everybody with a driver's license pretty much has a car. Most people drive themselves to work. Some people drive themselves to school. People that are retired want to go and hang out with their friends and do whatever they want to do. They don't want to pay extra money for a thing that they don't really deserve to be paying. If you have a lightweight car, like my mum, she's retired. mostly retired. She keeps retiring. They keep asking you to come back. She keeps working. She likes her work. That's good. She wants to drive her car to work. She just bought a new hybrid car. Good choice, because she's not going to have to pay RUC yet. But once they start charging people RUC for electric cars, they also said that they want to start charging everybody RUC. My mum bought a lightweight car. It probably weighs a ton or something. It's the smallest hybrid that Toyota makes. It's the most efficient vehicle that Toyota makes. She specifically bought it because it uses like 3.2 litres per 100 Ks. Okay, she's retired. She doesn't want to waste money on a big gas guzzling car. She used to have a V8 Holden. We had a lot of kids in our family. It was a practical thing to drive around in. You could fit everybody in, and you could take all our stuff and our dog on holiday. That was good. It had a 5.8 litre engine in it. We got LPG because it was more efficient. We have always been doing the things like every normal person, been trying to buy an efficient car whenever you can. You want to take everybody in your family when you go somewhere. That's what you have to buy. In the 70s and the 80s, it was a V8 Holden. What else? What do people buy now? They buy a CX-5 or something. A Mazda. You buy a family size Kia something. Sorrento, I don't know. Carnival, if you've got a big family. You buy kind of a minivan thing. Lots of people in New Zealand have big families. Still, or you've got all your extended family. You've got your cousins and your nephews and people. You want to take them all with you. Going on a trip, going out for dinner. You're doing your daily stuff. Why am I talking too much? I'm talking too much. Okay, it's what I do. It's cool. Daryl talks about New Zealand. It's in the title of the video. Whatever. What's the point? What can we do about it? We need to ask the government to be rational, and they need to graduate RUC from light to heavy. I think we should just weigh the weight of the car. They know what all the weights of the car is. They have a website. It's called rightcar.govt.nz. The government already has all the information. What does each model year of each vehicle weigh? They probably know that. It's probably in the RUC database. You can get a computer programmer to go, weight of car, get 3.5 tons, find the fraction of the weight of the vehicle as a fraction of 3.5 tons, charge a RUC that's a proportion of the weight. If you've got a 1 ton car, it's going to be about 1/3 of 3.5. If you've got a 2 ton car, it's going to be about 2/3 of 3.5. That makes sense. Pay 2/3. If you've got a medium size ute, you shouldn't be paying $7.60 for RUC. You should be paying about $5. You can save yourself $2.50 for RUC or something, right? If you've got a small lightweight, there's some little tiny little vans that people use for their businesses. They put all their cleaning supplies and stuff in there. They run a cleaning company. They have to go to people's houses and businesses and clean stuff. They carry all their mops and buckets and stuff in the smallest, cheapest van that they could find. Sometimes it's a hybrid van or an electric van or a diesel or a petrol van. There are no lightweight diesel vehicles in New Zealand because the RUC is very expensive. That's why you don't see small European diesel vehicles in New Zealand. There are none. The only people who have them have one because it's just a thing that they personally want, like a bunch of flowers if you want a bunch of flowers, or a nice music stereo for listening to stereo. It's a thing that you have because you want it and you like it and you pay the cost of it even though it's unfair. That's a thing that happens a lot when you make mistakes. I just noticed the microphones in the video and it looks dumb. I don't like it. It's too late. I've made the video already. What am I trying to say? We need to tell the politicians to graduate the price of RUC. You can make segments. Maybe my personal, it's just maths. You can do it on a computer. The computer does all the work. You don't need to be that tricky. You can just go, roughly what's the price, I know the weights of my cars. My Honda weighs about 800 kg, okay? So maybe 100 kg segments. Like, if you did 100 kg segments, then most sorts of cars fit into a weight class of some amount, right? Like roughly my Nissan Leaf weighs 1,600 kg. I think maybe a Tesla Model Y weighs about the same. No, Tesla Model 3, that's the lighter one. Tesla Model X weighs quite a lot more. I think they're more than 2 tons. I think they're pretty close to 3 tons. Maybe a Tesla Model X should pay 90% of the RUC price. What if you've got a Ford Ranger? I know that the old Ford Rangers were smaller and weightless. Maybe they were Ford Couriers. A Ford Courier probably weighs like 1.3 tons for the single cab version. Everybody who's driving one of those old Ford Courier utes, you're paying too much for RUC. Ask for a discount. Ask your MP for a discount. This is what we should all do. Everybody would want this, okay? There aren't that many diesel vehicles. I don't know what proportion of all the vehicles in New Zealand are diesel, but a lot of them are petrol. They're not making that much money from RUC. They're making much more of it from petrol, and they want to make much, much, much more by overcharging way too much. That's my point. It's the point of this video. The RUC rate for petrol cars will be set, if it's set the same as every other vehicle, it's set way too high. Everybody who's relatively poor who buy litre, which is like two-thirds of everybody in New Zealand are not that rich. Most people just, the money you earn this week is what you have to pay on your food and groceries and rent and mortgage payments next week, you know? Most people don't have spare money. They just buy the cheapest car. We have used Japanese import cars. Everybody's been buying the cheapest car. I bought my Nissan Leaf as a used import from Japan. I basically got a car that was 9 months old at half price. That was a long time ago. I bought an electric car because I really just wanted one. Had some spare money at the time. Shouldn't have bought it. Maybe it was a bad economic decision. I just really wanted it. I'm like the person who wants the small European diesel vehicle. They just really wanted it, so they bought it. What else? Anything else? Do you see my point? If you've got a big heavy 4-wheel drive, very, very big heavy, I can't think of what the kind of the biggest, there are some big Ford Rangers, like with all the canopy and big chunky suspension. Maybe, I just don't know enough. I can't remember what's the heaviest sort of vehicles. I could look it all up, I just didn't have the time. Busy, I've got a job. That's the problem. Like everybody else, we're too busy to ask for a discount for RUC. We should be complaining about this more. I think I've talked too much. How long has this been? I feel like it's a long time. 17 minutes. That's enough. You get my point. So everybody, so there are very lightweight electric cars as well. There's some very small new ones like BYD Dolphin, and there's Nissan Sakura. That will be an awesome electric car, but not if you have to pay RUC. It's pointless. The Nissan Sakura is like a small, it's just a 4-seater. It's a fairly new, couple years old Nissan model. They're making quite a lot of them in Japan now. They've started to come through as used imports in New Zealand. They still cost about $30,000, but they're extremely efficient. I think they do 200 kilometers for 20 kilowatt hours. That's like 50% more efficient than my Nissan Leaf. So they would be great cars for retired people that just want to take small journeys, you know, everyday driving. All of the old electric cars will be great for people who are younger to buy as a car that's just cheap to run, except for if you have to pay RUC. Once you have to pay RUC on it, they're all worthless because they're just too expensive to run. If you have to pay RUC, when they bring in RUC for petrol cars, it's going to be too expensive for most people to just generally drive a car. You'll only use it for the things you really have to do. They want to drive people to use public transport, which is fair if you live in a city. But I lived in places which didn't used to have public transport. My mum still lives in a place with no public transport. There's no public transport there. She could get a taxi, I guess. I don't consider taxis and Ubers to be public transport. That's a private car. What else? There, you know, places like Levin and Masterton, they don't have that much. Those are places near where I am. They don't have that much in the way of public transport going. If you live out of town, you might live in the country and work somewhere else in the country. There's no bus ride for that. There's no bus ride. You have to drive a car. if it's going to cost you $76 every time you drive 1,000 Ks, maybe, you know, a lot of people who live in the country have relatively longish commutes. You know, say you're doing 30 Ks a day, you're doing 100 every few days, you're doing a couple 100 Ks a week, you know, you're doing 1,000 Ks a month. You're $76. That's another $76 you have to find every 1,000 days. But if the RUC on small lightweight vehicles was set at the right value, you wouldn't be having to find an extra $76 per month. You just have to be finding another 25. But that 25 would be equivalent to what was in the petrol price, the 70 cents per litre. And so that's the fair number for smaller lightweight cars. If they charge everybody the same amount for RUC, it's just extortion. It's rewarding the people who can afford to buy the biggest, most heavy pollutive cars, and it's punishing everybody who's poor who wants a cheaper car. And everybody who's poor is half of the people. All the retired people are relatively poor. All the young people under the age of 30 are relatively poor. Half of everybody else is also relatively poor. Most people just buy the cheapest car they can afford. It's the only one they can afford, the cheapest car. You want to buy a relatively newer car, you have to buy a tiny Mazda Demio. Something like that, because it's the only thing that's cheapish and newish. You want it to be reliable because you want to have to be able to drive to work. You don't want to get growled by your boss for being late to work because your car didn't work. That's my point. There we go. It's extremely ranty. It's now 21 minutes. That's enough. I'm going to press stop. I hope you understand. The government is extracting money out of people in so many ways, and this is the latest way that they're doing it. That's what I want to say. Look, there's a New Zealand flag up there. Generally, like a lot of things in this country, it's a pretty good country. We need to get these things tweaked and just fix them a little bit, and then it will be a better country, and that's my goal of having this rant. Okay, awesome. It was a rant. I feel better. Thanks for watching. Take care. I don't make that many videos these days. I'm busy with my job. It's a busy job. It pays a lot. That's great because I need the money because everything's so expensive. There we go. It's funny. Life is a comedy, they say. Whatever. It's getting funnier every day. Okay. Catch you later. Bye. Too much philosophy. I know. See ya.